If you've ever wondered why shipping from China is so cheap, the answer comes down to one number: $800. It's a little-known legal loophole that quietly rewired global trade, allowing shipments with retail value less than the jet fuel needed for the journey to happen millions of times a day. Today we're explaining how this shadow supply chain was built and why it's finally being shut down. If you've ever ordered from an ultra-fast global platform, you've probably wondered, how is this so cheap? On top of low prices, shipping is also often free, which makes the entire purchase feel unreal. Meanwhile, local businesses are trapped. They pay import taxes and customs fees that overseas sellers simply bypass through systemic arbitrage. The answer lies in something called de minimis, Latin for too small to matter. This rule was exploited by overseas exporters to its absolute limit. In trade terms, it means if a package is worth less than a certain amount, customs won't bother taxing or inspecting it to save on administrative overhead. For years, that threshold in the US was $800. It was designed for personal gifts, never for millions of commercial shipments every single day. By 2024, over 1 billion of these insignificant packages were entering the country annually, overwhelming every customs agency on the planet. To understand how we reached this scale, we have to look at the first hidden mechanism of the shadow chain, a treaty signed in 1874. Long before cargo jets, nations met in Switzerland to create a, quote, single postal territory where mail could reach Tokyo without 20 different stamps. The Universal Postal Union Treaty created, quote, terminal dues, which are fees one country pays another to handle the last-mile delivery of international mail. To encourage global trade, industrialized nations agreed to pay a massive subsidy to, quote, developing nations. For over a century, China remained in this category. This meant the domestic postal service was effectively subsidizing the delivery of a foreign competitor for every package sent through the mail. By 2024, it was often cheaper for a merchant in Beijing to ship to Manhattan than for a shop owner in New Jersey to ship to that same address. This was a massive advantage, but as of January 1, 2026, the reclassification of major economies has finally taken effect. The subsidized status for several major exporters is gone. The century-old rules have been rewritten, forcing shippers to face the true cost of global delivery. However, postage was just the fuel. The real engine was the structural bypass of the tax code. Traditional retailers import goods in bulk containers. They pay tariffs, excise taxes, and port fees. But the de minimis loophole only works if you ship every single item individually. This is the strategy of disaggregation. Instead of one large container, you have 10,000 tiny envelopes. But this creates a massive physical problem at the border. Seaports are built for bulk containers. The labor cost to sort 10,000 individual envelopes at a maritime dock is higher than the taxes they are trying to save. To make the tax loophole profitable, these goods had to bypass the bulk processing of the ocean. They required a physical bypass for high-speed, individual movement. This is the link most people miss. The legal loophole didn't just save them money, it dictated their logistics, forcing them out of the ocean and into the sky. This is where the unit load device, or ULD, becomes the most important tool in the shadow supply chain. The ULD is the disaggregation capsule. It allows shippers to pack thousands of individual de minimis parcels into a single aviation container, bypassing seaports entirely. To move this volume without the cost of a dedicated cargo fleet, retailers buy the, quote, belly space on commercial passenger jets. While passengers pay for the flight, retailers use the spare space below to move disaggregated cargo at a fraction of the cost of a dedicated FedEx or UPS plane. Every time you fly across the ocean, there's a high probability that thousands of packages are sitting in ULDs beneath your feet, riding the same jet fuel you paid for. This air bridge allowed individual parcels to hit airport hubs and move straight into the postal system, bypassing standard duty checks of maritime borders. For years, this combination of the ULD and the de minimis rule allowed a $100 billion economy to exist in the blind spot of global regulators. But this speed had a massive environmental cost. Air freight produces roughly 80 times more carbon than shipping by sea for the exact same distance. We were heating the planet to deliver plastic trinkets in record time, a physical loop that was never sustainable and relied entirely on a lack of government oversight. The free ride is finally ending. Throughout 2025, a series of regulatory shifts and executive orders began systematically closing the disaggregation gap. Governments moved to lower the de minimis thresholds, finally requiring full digital documentation for every single parcel, regardless of its value. By the start of 2026, the $800 tax shield was effectively removed for high-volume commercial shippers. These items are no longer too small to matter. They are now being taxed as standard commercial imports, reflecting their true cost to the domestic economy. The shadow supply chain has hit its limit. The combination of high air freight costs and new standard duties has made the, quote, direct-from-factory model increasingly unviable. Faced with these changes, the model is undergoing its final evolution: local fulfillment. Major platforms are now recruiting partners to store inventory inside the country, finally paying the same duties as their competitors to avoid the air freight tax. They are building AI-managed warehouses that move stock before you even hit the buy button, using predictive data to bypass long-haul shipping. These robots zip through dark warehouses, fulfilling orders with data-driven efficiency that traditional stores simply cannot match. We are witnessing the end of Globalization 1.0, the era of hunting for the lowest possible cost by hiding in the gaps of international law. In its place, the global engine is being rebuilt for resilience and localization. The earbuds might still be cheap, but the logistics that brought them to your door is now increasingly taking on a physical, taxable form. We are moving away from a system that prioritized the lowest possible price at any cost, and toward one that prioritizes visibility and structural accountability. For the consumer, this tax glitch is over. The next generation of global trade will be defined by AI-managed hubs, transparent duties, and a return to the high-efficiency domestic warehouse. The next time you see a free shipping offer on a $2 item, remember, that price wasn't magic. It was a temporary distortion in a system that was never meant to scale, until someone figured out how to hijack the loophole. And now, this has been reset for a world where every parcel finally has to pay its way. The shadow supply chain has finally come into the light. The legal vulnerabilities have been patched, and the pulse of global trade is finally finding a new, more sustainable rhythm.